Welcome to the ROCM podcast, presented by ROCM Esports.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of the ROCM podcast. I am as always with my casters. Well, no, we have a caster's guest. I'm with my guests. No. I'm sorry. I'm with my co-hosts, Johnty.
Hello.
And Richard.
Hello.
And we were with the caster. That is the guest, right? All right. We're with René Treur.
Yeah, hello.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. How do you pronounce your name in English?
I just say René Treur. And then English people will butcher it, but no worries.
I already tried pronouncing it in English. Yeah, well.
René. They usually say René. But
how do they pronounce Treur in English?
I don't even remember. Usually they just say my first name. René Treur.
Right. But yeah, you're a caster?
Caster, commentator. Host.
Commentator, caster. Yeah, I always call it caster. Some people call it commentators. I guess it's, I don't know. How do you call it?
Well, I call it commentator because I'm also active in the world of sports now. So not just in the world of esports. So I just say commentator, but yeah, caster is what usually is used to describe it in the world of esports.
I see. Yeah. So, you do regular sports and also, esports.
Yeah.
You started in esports, or?
Yeah, definitely. I started out as an esports player, an esports commentator, an esports host as well, and now also a football commentator.
Okay. Yeah. What game did you first get into the esports career?
I played Counter-Strike because I broke my leg playing actual football out there on the field, and then I broke my leg, so I was stuck at home. So I was playing a lot of Counter-Strike. And then I've played for 3 years, won a couple of prizes with top 3 placements. Once we got first at the Dutch Championship. Okay. And after 3 years, I realized that it wasn't going to bring me much because against international teams, they were full-time professionals. So we were never going to win a world championship. And Dutch Championship gave us €300 to be divided by 5, a team of 5 players. Yeah. So obviously all that time and effort we spent practicing, which you had to do like 4 nights, 5 nights a week in order to be Dutch top team. So I decided it wasn't really worth it back then because this was 2007, 2008 when I quit playing. So yeah, back then prizes weren't so huge as they are nowadays. So I stopped playing, but I really still was very interested in my old teammates. And there was no coverage of Dutch and Belgian tournaments, so I decided to launch that with an old team sponsor of ours.
Yeah, and this is not CSGO, right? This is the old Counter-Strike.
Exactly. Yeah. CS 1.6 back then.
1.6. Yeah.
So graphics even worse than CSGO. you can't even imagine, but it exists. Yeah.
CSGO is already a bit crooked with the graphics, right?
Yeah.
But 1.6, yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Good old memories, nostalgia for me.
Yeah. I've never tried 1.6. I started in Source. So,
right. So you're a heretic.
Most people are not very fond of Source.
Yeah, it also divided the community back then because I remember that it wasn't clear which of the 2 versions was the best. So there was a lot of disagreement on that. So half of the community kept playing 1.6, which had the slightly better prizes, but only just. And Source was trying to take over the scene, but it didn't. Well, a lot of old school players didn't like the gameplay mechanics. Bunny hopping wasn't as easy, and the movement on train, for instance, where in the old version you could launch yourself off the ladders and then bunny hop from one train to another, but you could also go under the trains, and then in Source that wasn't possible. So there was a lot of disagreement on what was the best version. So the scene basically split up. Sponsorships and prizes were divided over 2 different games where it should be united as one. Obviously that's where CSGO came in. So that was good for the scene. But I remember I used to play 1.6, and at some point there were tournaments, and we were there to play 1.6, and we decided, let's play the Source tournament as well. So then I arrived at Friday night, and we played until 4 a.m. Yeah. Then Saturday morning, get up at 7 to play group stage games for, and then play until 4 a.m. again. And then Sunday we did qualify for quarterfinal source, and then semifinals 1.6. So on Sunday we were still playing as well, but it probably hurt our stamina and focus. So afterwards we were like, oh man, now we were third in 1.6 and like sixth in source, and we just got away without prizes. So yeah, better next time to focus on one of the two games.
Yeah, that's probably also because the movement and stuff just feels different, right?
Yeah, especially if you're switching constantly between the two games. So that doesn't help your mechanics as well, your skills.
So you attended a lot of esports events then.
Yeah, for sure.
How many?
Like it would be as a player and commentator combined. Yeah, probably around 300.
Whoa,
I suppose that's a wild guess, but basically I started being a commentator in 2009, and from 2017 it was professional enough to have to send an invoice for everything I did, because before that sometimes in a year I wouldn't go above a certain amount of money that I earned doing esports events as a commentator. So it would be a volunteering fee at the end of the year. But from 2017, I had to have my own company. And then I started, obviously, making invoices for each event. So since then, I've been able to keep a good track of how much I'm doing. But by now, there's football matches involved. But I'm at around, I don't know, 400, 300 invoices, I suppose. So, but there's also football matches in there. So probably like 200 of those are esports events. And that's just the past 5 years. So before that, I had 7 years as an esports commentator under my belt. Not full-time, obviously, but starting out as a hobby and then slowly progressing and slowly becoming more and more. Right. And obviously as a player, also had about, let's say, 3 to 4 big events a year in the Benelux. So I was active for 3 to 4 years. So that's not that much. I suppose I played like 20 events as a player.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 25.
Yeah, well, if you played that much or like have been in that much events, do you never like mix things up?
How do you mean?
Like you've seen all these teams and you see all these changes and
right. Oh, right. So in your memory.
Yeah, in your memory, like.
Oh yeah.
Wait, was this team this back then or this or I don't know?
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to remember exactly the years when certain transfers happened, because players like Forrest and Get Right, who are still sort of active, maybe not at the top international level, but still very good. And just a few years ago, still winning some prizes at least. I remember exactly when Forrest popped out on the scene. That was 2006 at CPL Summer, when he was absolutely insane for Fnatic. But that was on the international scene, because in the Swedish scene, the year before, he was already very good in a team called B-Grip. I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anymore as an esports organization, but Fnatic certainly does. Yeah. And he made a transfer to Fnatic, and then one of his first big events was CPL Summer 2006, and then he just massacred everybody single-handedly, and they won the title. So from then on, he was a mainstay as an international top-tier player, and even at the start of Csgo still as well. But the exact years that him and Get Right transferred to SK, because they already did that in 1.6, then they went back to either Fnatic or Ninjas in Pajamas at some point. And at the start of CSGO, they were Ninjas in Pajamas. They had that 87 map unbeaten streak.
Oh yeah.
But that, for instance, that I'm not sure, was that 2011? Was that 2010? I'm 2009 maybe. So in your mind, in your memory, it starts to blur exactly when certain things happen. But the big things that happened, you will still know the big players, the big protagonists, so to speak.
Yeah. So you when you're like observing a game, right? Because if you're a caster, you're also looking at the game, or well, because of course you can't do it blindly. And
well, that's interesting, because you have actual observers who are tasked with controlling the camera in CS, of course, at big events coverage.
Yeah. So
so interesting choice of word, because at the start of my commentator career, I was the observer and the commentator simultaneously. Back then we didn't have separate function for that.
That really ties into this question. How do you like observe to see what is interesting?
Ah, right. Well, obviously that goes down to a lot of experience. And as a Counter-Strike player, you don't really think about that. But at my first events as a Counter-Strike commentator, I started to realize that the action was gonna be instigated by the terrorist team, obviously. So you closely follow the terrorist team while they're throwing out their little fish hooks to try and see where the CTs are hiding. Obviously, you switch around to make sure the viewer knows. Back then, we didn't have the see-through walls and the silhouettes. So obviously you switch around between players sometimes to show the viewer where the CTs are at certain points. They will be moving around, obviously, but focusing mainly on the Ts until the action goes down, because then you want to be at a CT in the bomb site where the attack is focused. Because as a terrorist, you're running in, you maybe get one kill, but then you're gonna get traded by the second CT player. And for the CT in the bomb site covering, there's a big chance for a spray down, getting like 2, 3, 4, 5 guys mowing them down in one clip. So you gotta be on the CTs when the action is happening. But obviously in the first 40, 45 seconds of the round, there's gonna be a lot of interesting movement by the Ts to try and see where the weak points in the defense are.
Where you can get the opening,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because what Banks, for example, mentioned in the podcast is that sometimes something is like interesting to you, like what is happening, but for the stream, it's not interesting. For the viewers, it might not be as interesting.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or they might not understand why it is interesting to you. So it's important to stress, why are we here with the camera? Why are we watching this? So that viewers that maybe don't know the game that well understand as well. Because obviously experienced players will probably realize what's going on and what you're focusing on. But there's also going to be casual gamers watching, maybe.
Right.
So definitely keep in the back of your mind that not everything is crystal clear for everybody, and try and understand, try and make everybody understand why you're focusing on a certain point.
Yeah, because in a game like Counter-Strike, there's a lot going on. The game could go into chaos very quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
From chill, nothing happening to gunfire everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I casted one game just to try like what it was like. Because I'm also interested in casting. I just find it fun, like cool to talk about the game and look at the game, right?
Yeah.
One of the main problems I had was when there was a lot of chaos going on to keep the sentences normal flowing, instead of tripping over words and stuff and trying to say 2 things at once. How do you organize that, I guess?
I think that's down to experience mostly. I think I don't really know if there's an easy way to take a shortcut there. I think it's just a matter of getting a lot of experience. And even then, sometimes when I'm tired and when I'm at the end of a long day of casting and I don't know, when I've slept badly, I'll always try and get 8 hours sleep. Sometimes I have 2 events in a row and maybe a podcast in between, let's say. So there is not enough time to sleep. Sometimes at the end of a long day, I start noticing that I do trip up. So you can't always eliminate it totally, but a lot of that is down to experience, I guess.
You just get trained in it eventually, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you like to cast like alone or commentate alone on a game, or if it is esport or actual sport, or do you actually like a second person or even a third?
Definitely a second person at least with me would have my preference, because you can always bounce off each other and have a more interesting flow of conversation going rather than a monologue. A third person is always good. Maybe 2 play-by-play commentators and an analyst. The more people you have there, the more interesting it gets for the audience, for the viewers and the listeners, because it's different viewpoints as well. You're not always gonna see exactly the same happening, because sometimes I'm watching Barca versus Real Madrid and I'm thinking like, oh my God, Messi, he's the best player in the world. And some other person is watching the exact same match and he's like, oh my God, Cristiano Ronaldo, that's the best player in the world.
Right.
So
yes.
Yeah, the more people you have there, the more
perspectives.
Exactly. The more perspectives and the more talking points you'll get.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes, especially with games, I guess it happens less with like real sports, but in games you have technical pauses, for example, right? Or something goes wrong, PC explodes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something.
Ooh, tell me about
doesn't
it.
go right. I guess they should get it right. Get right. Sorry. Okay. But what do you do in the downtime? Because you have to keep talking, keep entertaining the people, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you have some music ready to be played during downtime. Some organizations have it. Some organizations nowadays have commercials that they'll play during downtime. But back in the day, we didn't have anything except our voices. So definitely we had to fill a lot of time. We also back then had a lot of technical issues, even more so than today. So you obviously, before the tournament starts, you want to have your preparation done. I've talked about it in the lecture I gave here. Preparation is key to feel confident as a commentator, but also to be ready for that downtime, which is eventually going to come either in real sports or in esports. In real sports, you'll have someone who broke his leg. He'll be on the field for a while, so you have to fill your time. In esports, you'll have your technical issues, everything that you've mentioned, and even more. You wouldn't believe it. But definitely have all the details about previous events, especially previous iterations of this event, if it's not the first time. But also, of course, the last big other events with the same game. Make sure you have details on the player statistics and, of course, the prizes that they've won as a team, but also as individuals. And you'll be able to fill a lot of time, and then just discussions about who's the best player currently. That also can easily fill like 20 minutes if you have 2 or 3 guys there at the mic. Because obviously, a lot of people right now will say simple, but some of them will say the young French lad, or maybe
Honestly,
baby goats, baby goat.
So
I guess I can if I watch Csgo games, that actually comes up a lot. Like they start talking about who's the best player right now.
Yeah, and each tournament is someone else. Sometimes it's Rain or Brokey or Nico. Sometimes used to be called Sierra at some point, and he's fallen off the radar a bit. But
something I noticed with the recent major, the one in Rio. So at the I think it was the final. There was a big technical pause, almost like an hour long. Something went wrong. I don't know if it was the final or. I know Outsiders was playing. I don't know who they were playing against. Not sure if it's finals, but they started talking about the robots and stuff because they literally ran out. It was like an hour of it not working. It's just interesting to me that they just can't keep.
You mean they got off topic?
They got off topic, but they could still get it going about something at least.
It's true. There's enough to unpack when it comes to the players there, the teams there. But sometimes these guys have done so many of those events that at the end of an event, like you said, it was the final multi-day event. So 3 days, I think, that event. So at some point, they've talked about all the players there. And at some point, even when fatigue steps in on day number 3, you're starting to think back about, have I said this already? Or was that a previous event that I've said this about this player? So then at some point, maybe they're so done with talking about that sort of stuff because they've been talking about it for 3 days. I never get down talking about it, but some people at some point get bored about it or are like, have I said this already? I'm not sure. Because sometimes off screen, they're also talking to each other about certain players. So at some point, it's hard to remember, hey, did I say this while the camera was rolling, or did I say this while we were in the break room having a croissant? So then sometimes they're like, okay, let's not throw it in there because I think I've already said it, and then go off trail talking about robots.
It was just going on about.
What's like the most off topic you've been in either esports or actual sport games?
Oh, that's a good question. Wow. I have actually been fed these hidden words and sentences by a colleague of mine who's crazy about football club that I do commentary at. But usually I manage to tie it in pretty neatly. But at some point he said put oliebollenkraam in there, which is a Dutch treat. It's served usually during December before Christmas and New Year's Eve. And there's always oliebollenkramen, so the little huts vending them in the streets. So at some point, and this was not in December, I can tell you. So this was in September or October. So I said to Tony, well, how long will it take before we see the oliebollenkraam pop up again right outside the stadium? Because I feel hungry for one. So that was a bit off topic. But obviously it wasn't while the ball was rolling. There was a player on the floor, and we'd said everything that was happening on the field, and I felt like, this is a good moment to throw it in.
Right. Have you commentated more than only Counter-Strike and football?
Yeah, definitely. Especially in esports, I've commentated a lot of different titles. At some point, I gradually transitioned to doing more and more FIFA and back then PES, but now eFootball. And FIFA will soon probably be EA Sports FC with the licensing stuff.
You did commentate a FIFA game once with the couch.
Not just once.
No, not once. Not once.
I think I know what you're talking
You
about.
have like the big couch in the stadium, big screens. It was during a
World Cup or
pause. Was it during a
Europe.
pause? I'm not sure.
I've done World Cups, but I think you mean the one with the couch on the field.
Yes.
It's Amsterdam Arena, which is now the Johan Cruyff Arena, but
Yeah.
back then still Amsterdam Arena. This was 2017. They basically organized, Csgo was it, a big telecom provider in the Netherlands. They basically hosted a qualification tournament both in the Amsterdam Arena and in the Philips Stadium the week before. And I was doing live coverage there as well, but that wasn't broadcasted on Dutch TV. That was just on the internet. But then the two winners of both events would play for Ajax and PSV during the actual football match in the stadium. And they would be coached by the official professional esporters for Ajax and PSV, which were just announced back then for the upcoming Eredivisie season, which was going to be the first season. So it was quite unique. We were actually the first in the world to launch our digital FIFA championship with all the professional clubs of the top flight league in that country involved.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Australia, I think, was second. But this is a while ago, this is 5 years ago. But we were first to do it. And of course, they wanted to have it on Dutch TV with a good something to launch it, basically, a good presentation. So they decided that sort of a show match with these qualified players, with their own players as coaches behind them, would be good. Right. And of course, there needed to be a commentator. So I was there to basically introduce the event, do play-by-play commentary as well, by myself, unfortunately, not as I would prefer with a second person. But yeah, it was only one game. Because obviously they needed to get on with football after that. So once we were done, we were all getting that couch and TV out of there, the PlayStation and the players, and then the players came on the field. It was actually in December 2016, just before. It was in the middle of the season. Ajax, PSV, and PSV won that match 1-0, or it was a 1-1. Yeah, it was a 1-1 draw. Davy Klaassen scored in his first stint at Ajax before he went to Werder Bremen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So do all clubs now just have FIFA players?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
well, not all the clubs in the world, but in an insane amount of countries, there's a league like Eredivisie. Right. Belgium has Proximus E-Pro League, where I've been for 3 seasons as well. Luxembourg is launching their Orange E-League just last season. So they were late to the party. Italy was late to the party as well, just last year, as well as Finland. But yeah, pretty much every big football country has an official esports league with all the top clubs having to contract esports players. And in fact, Eredivisie forced all the clubs to take in a FIFA player. If they didn't, their football team would not be allowed to participate in the competition.
Oh, wow. All right. That's
insane.
That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
actually. Wow. Actually, their team is not completed if they don't have a FIFA player.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Exactly,
really
yeah.
cool.
Maybe.
Oh, but you asked about what I've all the games that I've commentated.
Right.
I did like FIFA eFootball, NBA 2K, Rainbow Six Siege for a while. I've done one solitary Fortnite event. Same for League of Legends, which I said I would never do, but this was a package deal with Rocket League and Counter-Strike, my two of my 3 favorite games, because obviously the football games, Rocket League and Counter-Strike. Then I've mentioned the next one, Rocket League. I've done a few events. I've done one Call of Duty event. I've done some. This was cool. Back in 2018, they had this event at the Foot Locker in Rotterdam. Forza Motorsport was the game, I think. So it was a racing game. Yeah, and I was doing that here in Rotterdam, while at the exact same moment there was one in Paris and there was one in Manchester, and we were supposed to have a linked up show where we could talk to each other and switch to each other. In the end, technical failure. So it was just a solitary show with our with what was going on in Rotterdam, but it was broadcasted.
Right.
But that was pretty cool. And I've done Csgo Formula 1 e-battle. So that was 2 seasons for TV.
If thinking about it, is there a game you still want to commentate that you haven't?
That's good. I would like to do more Rocket League, but we have a lot of phenomenal Rocket League casters who are higher level than me. I'm just a diamond. So yeah, it's hard to get in there, but I love that game so much, so I'd like to do more of that. There's not really a game that I'd like to do that I haven't ever done, except maybe certain competitions like European Championship, World Championship for football, maybe the FIFA E World Cup, and Champions League matches for football.
What about fighting games?
Fighting games. Oh, interesting. Oh, I've actually been co-caster for a Tekken competition at at a big event where I was doing the FIFA, and what other the games was I doing there? I was also the host of the event. It was a big LAN event, so they just said, "Oh, can you do Tekken 7 as well?" Oh, sure.
Right.
Wasn't that the same?
I've only ever played Mortal Kombat, to be honest, and Street Fighter back in the day.
But wasn't that the same event where you were casted the league match?
Oh no! That was during the same time. That was in Rotterdam at the NDSM dock, the one with League and Rocket League and CS:GO. And the week before, I think, or the week after, I had the Grolsfest in Enschede with Weerwaar gaming events. Okay. And that has like 23 different games. They even have retro competitions. So I competed there last year. 2 years ago in my first edition, and won the Tetris league. This time I tried to go back to back, but there was some other guy who just outscored me.
Lucky.
I was second. So.
That was
pretty good.
That was something that surprised me, like how broad esports really is. Because if you look at esports at first, you're like, Counter-Strike, maybe League, you know. But it could go as far as just Tetris competitions or Mario Kart or
dancing
Pokemon
even nowadays.
I
dance competition. And even something popped in my mind just then, but now I've forgotten. Something that's not really esports, considered like the speedrunning competitions.
Right.
Oh, speedrunning.
Yeah. Is it really esports?
I count it as esports.
Yeah, of
Because
course, if there's prize money and judges, right?
Of course,
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
admins.
it's like speedrunning is more going for records, so
Yeah.
maybe more. It's a sport and it's on its own, to be honest, because you can like compare it to what we have in the real world with the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because in all these games, you have like glitchless, 100%, any percent, all these kinds of
fast
versions.
to reach the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, for sure.
It's like last 5 years within Minecraft itself, it's like amazing. The whole record scene in like getting from the end, defeating the whole Nether realm, and it's crazy.
The last 2 years, there has been a real big change. Like in 2020, you had like certain records. People thought like, oh, how are they gonna do better than this? And nowadays they have like on the back on the computer when they're trying to get a good seed, they are generating a lot of seeds in the background. Okay, what's where are like treasure chests, where are like villages and stuff like close by. What's like the best seed to start at, and they're processing it while restarting again and again.
Right.
And then with the random seed, because obviously that's the whole point. You have like 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes or something, and then they already were in the end, like done with the game.
I think the record is like 11 minutes.
Is that a glitchless? Because
No, okay. Yeah.
Because
enough.
I recently watched like a video about the change in Minecraft speedrunning for the last 2 years. Yeah,
crazy.
It's really insane.
It's strange and crazy because it's so. There's no way. There's no way how you can do it, but people still do it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at Mario 64.
I mean,
Also,
They still find new stuff. That game is out.
What's the fastest time? Do you happen to know?
4 minutes? No.
What?
Wait. Which run?
Okay.
Yeah.
Zero star, 1 star, 10, 16 star, 70 stars, or 120 stars.
Yeah, 120. If you fully complete it.
400%.
Probably like.
I think it's not. I think it isn't much longer than an hour. To be honest,
That's crazy.
Okay, what are you guys' guesses?
Just last week was Awesome Games Done Quick, a big event for speedrunners, and they brought in $2.6 million, I think, for charity, for like the fight against cancer. I'm not exactly sure which foundation it was, but I'm pretty sure I'm 100% sure it was against cancer. So stuff like that, that's great to see it happening every year and to see it grow and getting more and more attention and money as well.
Yeah,
and of course higher skill ceiling as well, because like you say, the times they keep racking up in certain games.
So
insane.
Ooh, I found it. The fastest is 1 hour and 38 minutes.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
I don't have big knowledge of Mario 64. I don't know how fast that really is.
That's
1 hour,
really
37 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yes, that on
2 months
speedrun.com.
ago.
Is that on speedrun.com?
2 minutes ago.
No, 2 months.
Oh, 2 months ago. Wow. Congratulations.
No, but
And we have him here in the studio.
no, it's like a 120 star. And
Damn, that's
That's
Japanese-
really
Japanese
fast
as well.
to be. Yeah,
Oh,
but
wow.
all the
no,
speedruns.
American actually.
Wait, the American game? Wait, an American game or
No,
American speedrunner?
American player.
Okay,
Right.
okay. Because there is a thing in older games. I don't know if it's in newer games as well. If you play in like Japanese, I think Japanese is the fastest.
Yeah.
Text just goes faster. Cutscenes are faster.
right.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like the
wow.
Japanese platform, but it's an American player.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I don't know how it works, but like the characters of Japanese language, maybe Chinese as well, are just going faster through computers than
A few
like-
characters tell. For us, it's a few words, so
Yeah.
there's gonna be way more characters.
yeah. So it's like they go way faster through like the beginning cutscenes if they cannot skip it without glitches. Because if you start the game with Super Mario 64 without going into the castle, you can't. If you want to skip the cutscene, like on the bridge before going in the castle, you already have to perform multiple long jumps around railings and stuff, and already have to like go around the cutscene to save a lot of time. And you're not even in the castle.
Right.
It's really insane.
Absolutely.
So right. So
Off topic.
no. It's cool. I like speedrunning. It's something
It's an art.
it's something I haven't learned a lot about yet, but I'm very interested in because it's just such an art, right? It's just such an art.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so what a question that popped up in my head, because what singers do or people that perform on stage, they practice their voice. Do you do that as well before like commentating?
Well, sometimes I do practice my intro speech for certain tournaments. There's big tournaments, and when it's in my car on my way to work or while I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going over it in my head. But for my voice, I don't really practice it a lot. Although I do tend to nerdy. I'm not sure what's the English.
Hum.
I tend to hum
Yeah.
a bit. I feel like it warms up my my tonsils, my vocal cords. I'm not entirely sure if that helps. That's not something that I've read with scientific proof, but that's something in my head that helps warm it up. Because in the morning when I wake up, my voice will not be entirely perfect shape. So then I start humming a bit to warm it up if I have an event that starts early in the morning.
Right.
Yeah. But even if it is a mental thing, if it helps, it helps.
It
Exactly,
helps in
yeah.
a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's not physically doing anything, if you think it's doing something,
Yeah,
it
for
at
sure.
least it helps, you know,
Yeah.
for being okay. I'm warmed up. I can do this. Instead of it's like, oh, it doesn't sound right. You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
It's like more motivation.
Like the thing I said about preparation, I will perform better if I have 20 sheets with data in front of me, even if I don't use it, as opposed to when I don't have it done, I will feel a bit stressed, like I didn't have time to prepare, I didn't have time to get all the data. So what will happen if we have a technical downtime? I don't get stressed anymore. I gotta be honest, after 300 events, you don't get stressed anymore. But back in the day, I did really need that to boost my performance. Back when I was just starting and I wasn't really a great commentator yet.
Another question about your casting career. Did you ever change the style of casting that you did? Because obviously you went from Counter-Strike 1.6 to Rocket League
Football
to FIFA
games.
to actual live football matches, you know?
Yeah.
So did you ever change anything in the way you casted?
Sometimes based on who's sitting next to me. So sometimes I'm sitting next to a person who is an analyst, and then I'll feel great because I love doing play-by-play casting. But back when I just started, I was the analyst. So back then it was totally different. I wouldn't really have to control my voice like the way I have to do it now during my intros, during the goals or the big moments in game. So back then it was just breaking down the action at the end of every round and at the start of the new round, and having a play-by-play caster do what he does. And I gradually transitioned into the play-by-play caster role because I liked that more, and there were less play-by-play casters than there were analysts. But sometimes I sit next to a person who is also definitely a play-by-play caster and not that good an analyst. And then I will transition back to the analyst role a bit more to give him space to do his thing, because otherwise you're gonna be intercutting each other. You're gonna be casting the action, and maybe he cuts in between or other way around. Doesn't work too perfectly. So then usually I'll just say to him, you go ahead and do the play-by-play and I'll do analysis and bring me in whenever you feel like you need it.
Okay.
Which style do you prefer most? Analyst or play-by-play?
Yeah, play-by-play, definitely. I like to do the fast talking with the action scenes. So yeah, I really prefer play-by-play, especially in Counter-Strike, the game that started my career. Like when the action was popping off, like you said, you can trip over your words, but at some point I had it down that I could say everything that was happening on screen without stumbling, etc. So that really feels good, and especially if then you get, after the event, you get compliments like, oh wow, that was so great. So yeah, that's part of the reason that I fell in love with being a play-by-play caster as well.
Could you give one tip for the people that would want to be a play-by-play caster, and one tip for an analyst?
Oh, that's great. I'd say first focus on, this works for both of them. First focus on your games that you're comfortable with, that you've played at a, well, doesn't have to be pro level, but at a high level, that you've competed in. And when you get events, it will take a while before you get your chances, but be sure not to aim too high. Just go to local events, smaller events, and ask them whether or not they would like a caster there. And of course, they won't instantly have a budget, but at least you'll be getting the experience if you get the chance. Right. And then after you've done it, there will be footage online, at the very least for a while. So be sure to watch that back and listen to yourself, and then try and see what annoys you. Try and phase that out. That works for both play-by-play and analysts. As an analyst, it's good to have all the data there, even more so than for a play-by-play caster. So that preparation, if you're an analyst, is even more important.
Right.
Okay.
So, because you have done real sport, have you done any other real sports than football?
I was at some point asked to do basketball, but that event got cancelled due to COVID. So that was rather unfortunate. So I've yet to do basketball, but I did do the NBA 2K, like I told you. So that was a great experience, and especially because it was basically a world championship event. But it was during COVID time, so I was doing it from my home studio. And then I did the Euro Championships, and then they asked me. Apparently, I did a reasonable enough job, even though I've only been following basketball for the past 3 years. Then they asked me to do South American Championships as well. So then I was setting my alarm clock at 2 a.m. to cast matches at 3 a.m., which was crazy.
So what are like differences between like real sports and like esports? From a casting perspective, like
Yeah, it's in large parts you will be doing the same, but the overview mainly. Like last Sunday, I was doing an away game for Willem II, a football game,
Right.
and they were at Almere City. And Almere City has the press tribune, the press stand, not in the center of the pitch at the long side. They have it totally in the corner at the short side. So basically, your view is horrid. And when our team was playing close to us, in the half that we were sitting close to, when at some point the left forward player had the ball, there was a dugout in between. So I wouldn't be able to see what was going on. So that was not the best experience. And in esports, you will always have, nowadays at least, multiple screens in front of you, sometimes instant replays. Yeah. So the action will be very clear to you. And in real sports, the action is not always really clear to you, and you don't always have the replays because ESPN has the monitor with the replays. But we, for the Blindentribune and the Willem II radio, we don't have it. Unless there's another journalist in front of us with the replays, we won't be able to see it back. So you have one chance to see what's going on. So you have to be, as a commentator, you always have to be focused, also in esports. But there it hurts you more if you miss something that's happening. Yeah. So that's also why it's nice to have two people there, so that when one is watching in his statistics, the other one can keep an eye on the field to be able to see when play resumes.
Yeah. So now that we have settled a bit may come back, but now that we have settled a bit on the pandemics all around the world, what did you see that changed a lot in between 2019 and 2023?
Yeah, that's a great question, because for esports, I definitely saw some changes. Back when COVID struck, normal events, normal sports events weren't possible. Concerts for artists weren't possible, that sort of stuff. And online esports was still possible. So back then, esports took a huge leap, started soaring. But we're coming a bit back down to earth. I'm feeling it for the past 6 months, where there's less events here in the Netherlands where I'm asked to be a commentator, because some organizations and some city councils, they also have a certain amount of money that they can spend every year on entertainment or arts or whatever. And back then, when COVID just started, suddenly they had all that money, and end of the year was coming, and they wanted to use it to entertain the youth, especially keep them off the streets back then. So they started putting it into online gaming events and live streams to keep not only the players at home, but also the viewers. But that's dropped away a bit. The parties that weren't always involved in esports and not really interested in it, and now they're focusing on what they were doing before COVID again. Okay. So I do feel that esports took a bit of a hit, but yeah, I feel like it's still getting taken more and more seriously, because, like we said, all football clubs are involved, governments are involved more and more. We will have an Olympic week of esports coming summer. Yep. So there's great stuff happening in the world of esports.
Okay. And how do you see it in the future? Like real sports against esports?
I wouldn't say it's going to be real sports against esports. I think it will be more and more real sports with esports. So what we're seeing in football and basketball right now with NBA 2K, we might be seeing it at ice hockey matches in America, which is a huge sport there. We'll have the ice hockey game being played probably in the stadiums, and the young players going up against the professional player of the club, right? Or maybe professional esports player of the club. I think more and more sports will integrate it. I'm also hearing stuff about cycling, basically, and e-cycling.
Yep. It was crazy, because I was sitting on the couch a while back, and it was like Corona time and stuff, and they had like the Tour de France or one of those
Luik, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
A big cycling event.
Yeah, they had it online. It was crazy. You saw like all the players at home with the camera and
Yeah,
sitting in there with like data and analytics and stuff on their arms and so it's crazy.
Stuff in their arms? That's cheating.
I mean, no, I don't know. I don't know how they do that, but they have like sensors and stuff, and I don't know.
Heart rate and stuff like
It was crazy.
Oh,
it was
I
like
hope
the
so.
first time when I saw
exactly.
esports actually on television. Because
Yeah.
can we say it's esports? I guess so.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, yeah. If there's prizes to be won, if there's admins there to make sure everything's going on in a legit way, if it's organized, yeah, it's probably esports, right? If it's happening digitally and not in the real world.
Yeah.
Well, it is in the real world,
Yeah.
but
That's I
It's-
think it's
it's
more
an
like
integration.
AR, a little bit of AR. It's like it's not
yeah,
it's VR,
yeah, true.
you know, but it's AR. It's a bit of a mixture
Yeah.
between actually exercising in the real world and actually playing something while exercising in a virtual world.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's also a lot of sim races, and even Max Verstappen himself, who does
Yeah.
a lot of sim racing, he's crazy about it. He even said at some point that he was trying to be a professional FIFA player as well, but he said it couldn't be combined with being a professional driver. So
Yeah,
at
right.
some point he let go of that idea. But yeah, he does a lot of sim racing with Team Redline. So yeah, and basically when there's prizes to be won, obviously it's esports as well.
Yeah. Because that's one thing I'd like to see grow a lot. That's VR and AR esports, because it's a little bit of a middle ground between sports and esports, because you're playing a game, but you're not like sitting on a desktop or with a controller before you with like, okay, I'm gonna play this game and I'm gonna stand here or I'm gonna sit here. You're actually, for example, Beat Saber. You're actually moving. You're actually exercising. You're doing sports, but for a game, it's still
true,
esports, but it is sports.
Yeah,
It's a
right.
bit-
Yeah. It started out with the Wii board and the bowling. Well, yeah, it's great. Like Beat Saber, that's a great example of a way that you can keep your body in shape and without actually going to a sports club. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can do it on your own or with friends, obviously. Yeah, it's a great game. Definitely.
I feel like that's still a difference though, because like of course you have the virtual cycling, virtual football, FIFA and that type of
Chess.
stuff, but that's virtual chess.
Chess.
course.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's
God,
become
like-
bigger since the
Oh yeah, for
pandemic.
sure.
It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like I nowadays see like all like professional masters at chess. They all went online, started channels, started twitching, Twitch channels, and they're all doing
Some
online
partnered
events.
with esports organizations.
Yeah.
Some huge players.
I feel like there's still that difference between that and like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, the actual gaming games.
Yeah.
Okay, FIFA's also a gaming game, but it's like if I show my dad, if I show my grandpa FIFA, if I show my grandpa virtual cycling, he will still recognize what is happening, right?
Yeah.
If I show him Counter-Strike, he will be like, "What am I looking at?"
Well, you're shooting everyone.
Like, is this a movie?
Maybe for Counter-Strike, if he served in the war, he will.
no.
But yeah, I think League of Legends is maybe a better example of that because it's a lot of fantasy and stuff going on.
Yeah.
For Counter-Strike, probably most people would be able to see like, oh, it's terrorists
figure
versus
out what.
police.
Yeah.
Maybe very basic way to say it.
Cops versus robbers.
I mean,
But there's a lot of games out there that won't be understood by people that didn't play the games. I think that's definitely right.
Yeah.
So you have your casual gaming, and then you have your esports, which is probably professional gaming and competitive gaming. You don't need to win prizes to be an esports player.
Right.
As long as you're competing in tournaments and trying to be the best of your town or best of your country or best of whatever, then you're probably esports player.
Yeah.
The reason I got my grandpa as an example is because, okay, so in Portugal, I bring my PS2, right? I go to Portugal, I go there on vacation. And my grandpa is also there because it's his house. And he watches me play. So he says, when he sees me playing, he thinks it's a movie. He thinks I am playing a movie. He doesn't know what a video game is. He thinks I'm playing the movie. I'm controlling the movie or of some kind. Which is really interesting to me, like how a perspective of like someone that doesn't know games is on gaming.
Yeah, it's true.
But I mean, you have kind of the genre. What is it? A choose your own adventure game.
So I was playing the Godfather video game.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
right.
So he recognized the Godfather, of course. But he thought I was controlling the Godfather in a way. It's like, yeah, but I guess
Yeah.
that's true. But
Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah,
what
of
video
course.
games are in a way.
Yeah. But like, I
Yeah.
think in his mind, he's like, okay, he's choosing what the movie is gonna do.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, video games were like that.
Yeah.
We know we played some retro games for
Yeah.
for like footage, for example,
Mhm.
like Commando. It's like Rambo, but just a little bit different because multiple reasons. But you know, it's like the average military movie that you are doing yourself or playing yourself without being in Vietnam or in whatever country where there was war.
Yeah, I remember my first real cinematic experience during a game. I think like you already had before that. You had Doom and Wolfenstein and Duke Nukem, Quake, which were basically games with a story already. You had the Final Fantasies, which were really story-based games. But the first time I felt like I was playing a movie. It was probably Half-Life 1 because that had all the cutscenes, but it wasn't really. Usually, you would have your in-game, and it looked way different than your cutscenes in between, which looked way better, more polished. But Half-Life had pretty decent graphics, and for that time, and then you'd have your movies happening while you were controlling the character. Stuff was happening around you that was basically a cutscene, and you couldn't influence it, but you could still walk around. You could still try and do something. So it made me feel like I was actually playing in a movie. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah, for sure.
But I still feel that like cutscenes, if you can do anything, for example, the new Pokemon game, it's new. It's from the last year, the end of the last year. But there are so many cutscenes, but they didn't took the time or the effort to use different models because the Pokemon models, okay, they look great nowadays. But the character models, I mean, I don't like the art style for multiple reasons. And now in the cutscenes they don't use like stuff to polish the characters more to let it look just a little bit better. Because I remember on the Wii even, you know, on the Wii U or on the PlayStation 3, they had like different models, better looking models that they couldn't use in the game because it was too high quality or something, you know. Hardware limitations, but in the cutscenes you would have like very cool models that you couldn't control, sadly. But it was giving a feel that I really lost in newer games. For example, if you're playing a campaign on Call of Duty, you always use the in-game models. You know, instead of using models that are designed for cutscenes, something you can control.
Like Final Fantasy back in the day.
Yeah.
Actually, for me back then, it was kind of a reward to come further in the game to get to that cutscene to see what's gonna be going on because it looked so good back then. It was the first time, I think it was PlayStation 1, that you'll have something resembling a movie. Well, right now we know that the graphics were horrendous, but still those cutscenes in between looked very polished back at the time. So it was basically sort of a reward. Like at the end of the game, when you finished it, you'd get a little bit of a scene with something happening already in the Mario days, in the Sonic days.
Sonic was the thing I thought about. For example, Sonic Riders. It was one of my favorite Sonic games, and always in the cutscenes, the models were so cool.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then, because the games are pretty old, the models in game weren't as great. But
true.
That's my favorite thing about the older or the mid-gen. I think mid-gen because it's not old school, but it's not new school. The mid-gen Sonic games were my favorite because
I've played 8-bit Sonic games.
Oh, really?
Like 32 pixel Sonic.
What was the first game you played?
Oh, the first game ever? Oh man. Maybe the first console I had at my house was a Sega Master System, 8-bit, so it might very well be Sonic. But I think before that, I already went to a friend's house who had a console before we had one. And it was probably a soccer game, like International Superstar Soccer, 1994 on the Mega Drive.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty cool.
Interesting. You know,
if I
almost everyone is like, "Oh, yeah, Mario's my first game.
Yeah,
Mario's
yeah,
my
yeah.
first game." You know.
if we look up the graphics of that game right now, we'll be laughing.
Okay, so my first game is probably GTA.
GTA, the first one.
No, so okay, so
Oh,
I
the
was
first one was the
I was a young
best.
kid. I went to my cousin's house a lot. Like my cousin and my my cousin and my aunt, right? And he had GTA. He was allowed to do because he was a lot older.
You're
than
older than you look. if that was GTA number
Me.
one.
No, it wasn't GTA number 1.
Right.
I'm 20 now. I was like 4 maybe. So I went to his house, right? And he was like playing the game, and I was like a little kid. I was like, "Oh, can I try?" And he was like, "Oh, sure." I don't. My mom was definitely not okay with that.
Oh yeah.
It was like GTA 3 or something. I don't know. It was
beating up prostitutes.
yeah.
Not
So
not your average day for a 4-year-old.
no, not really.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think that's my first gaming experience was GTA. So
Blowing up cars with a rocket launcher.
Oh,
Oh man.
yeah.
oh. My youth is innocent against that. Just stomping on a few Goombas.
Mario.
Yeah, man.
How about you, Azaria?
Ooh. My dad loved football, so we had like a PlayStation, a small computer. We played a lot of FIFA 98.
FIFA 98. Oh,
That's the
sick.
first game I played.
Nice.
First football game.
Dennis Bergkamp.
Oh,
It did have the real names back then, right? Because there were football games that didn't have the real names.
Yeah, copyright
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
God.
exactly. Licensing issues. Like Dennis Dirtbag instead of Dennis Bergkamp.
Dirtbag.
Yeah.
Dirtbag scores. I know, we didn't have commentators back then. Not even in game. It was just like some sort of mechanical tune for every goal,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a celebration tune.
Yeah, I guess it was also like because of hardware limitations. It was very
Yeah,
hard
for
to
sure.
store
Yeah.
voices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
commentating and casting in like football games went pretty fast as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing actually
for
think
sure.
about it.
It went fast back then, but I don't think it's going as fast as it used to be because the game mechanics didn't really change in the last few years. The quality of the game didn't go that fast in the last few years. I mean,
True.
when the first FIFA game I've actually played myself was FIFA 15.
Mm.
If I look at FIFA 23, I don't
See
see
the
that much
difference.
difference.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean,
Yeah,
the stats are different, the players are different, teams are updated, but it's like every year you play the game, you buy a
Same,
DLC
same.
or an
Yeah.
update.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it doesn't feel right.
But
I mean,
I don't think graphically you can improve it that much. Or would you say that you'd have to go for different camera views, like third person, like hovering above the player, maybe
They-
more of an action scene?
they could try. I mean, there aren't really third person or first person that wouldn't do anything. Third person football games. I mean, you
Yeah.
can control the whole.
Would be
the whole-
interesting. And that you'd have to use one of the sticks to direct the movement of the head as well. So if you want to see what's going on behind
Yeah,
you,
you have two
Yeah.
analog sticks.
would be
obviously.
interesting.
Yeah.
Would increase the skill ceiling immensely.
Imagine a FIFA game where there were 11 players in each team, and you would control one player.
Yeah,
If there's
Yeah.
two names, if there's two
Whoa.
names, big names in FIFA, I remember from then it was like Evert and Apel and Yuri Milton.
Right. Yeah,
Two
yeah,
biggest names in FIFA. I don't know.
I don't know a lot
Yeah,
about
they-
football.
Uh,
or
same-
FIFA,
same
so I-
here.
Yeah,
It's,
they were
it's
the-
like, hello jongens, welkom bij deze wedstrijd. Met Evert de Apel en Yuri Milton. Ja, dat is fantastisch.
You're good.
yeah.
You should be a commentator.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Oh, so if you would be asked by the FIFA game to do the commentating in game, right?
I'd say no.
You would say
Of
no.
course, I'd say yes.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Okay, because
If they're listening right now, this is a throat infection. The way I'm sounding right now, I'm not that nasal usually, so be sure to call me.
right. Because
Hit me up.
I know.
Hit me up, EA. Come on. What are you waiting for?
Because I know
Slide in my DMs.
Oh God.
Because I know Joe Rogan, right? He
Yeah.
did the UFC. He casted
Yeah.
UFC, right? but he said
Very
no
cool.
to the UFC game
Why?
because I don't know. He was like,
Maybe conflicting schedules.
no. He did it once. He did it for one UFC game, but he didn't want to do it after because
Oh,
I guess it had something to do with like if you're in the stadium and you're seeing the fights, right?
Yeah.
Well, then it's live or something, and if you have to do it for the game, you have to kind of follow scripts and stuff.
yeah, it's
And it
true.
wasn't really his thing or something.
I think it probably
don't
means
know.
that it won't be able to convey the feeling and the adrenaline that you feel when you're in
Right.
the arena.
Yeah.
So because obviously we're all annoyed at the in-game commentators when we score an insane FIFA goal and it's just the same audio as when you score a regular FIFA goal.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you score in minute 60, it should be like and it's 3-0. It should be like okay, not a goal. And if you score an equalizer in the last minute, it should sound way different.
Yeah, right.
And I think, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Then they should go out their minds. But I don't think. Well, I think it should be possible technically to get that in there somewhere. But it's probably too much money, too much time, too much effort.
I don't think it's gonna be that much more money because they have like
Yeah.
3 lines for each commentator.
Right.
They would just do the same lines, but then with more enthusiasm, with
Yeah,
more,
exactly.
more power
But maybe
in it.
maybe
and
for
then-
the AI, it's hard to pick up on when to use what.
Ah, right.
Mm,
Maybe that's
Maybe,
some
but
issues. I don't know.
I mean, if I look very simplistic at the game, okay, I have 3 points. My enemy has 2 points.
yeah.
If I have played 80 minutes or 85 minutes, I have 5 minutes left. If something happens, the power of
Yeah,
voice
yeah, yeah.
goes up by
mean-
like 10% or something.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I guess so, but we had CEO of Leadfi
Right.
a while back, and he said like, I mean, it's hard to get. It's even though you have the data and the AI, it's still hard to get a proper response. It's like it may be possible, voice notes may be possible. It's still a lot of factors that weigh in.
Yeah, because
For
it's
instance-
like code that has to interpret what's happening instead of just a human
Yeah.
that can just
Exactly.
yeah. Maybe that makes it hard. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's- yeah.
But I mean, they have the budget, so
Right.
Yeah,
That's
true.
good point.
Yeah. they're releasing an update every year for 60, and now are they 70 euros? So I mean,
It's not like they're sitting under the bridge heating their
Nah,
hands at a barrel.
yeah, that's
yeah,
true,
they're
that's
they're
true.
actually living like kings. So
They can hire the people
Yeah,
easily.
just got like the 5% of, and then you can every 5% is like a mountain of money, and you can get so much innovation in the games, you know.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure if they think about it like that because at some point, FIFA gets sold every year and every year. I have some feeling that there is still a big community after it. Like, oh yes, this is amazing. There's also still the people that think, okay, every year is the same. And I think they might also think it like that. Oh yeah, we just drop the same, and people are just working on it and keep it like this and done easy. Let's not spend more time than we need so we can maximize
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
money and
Right.
budget. I mean,
They will
'Cause-
lose players now and then because they get older and have other stuff that become a priority, but they might lose them as well, even if they improve the game. And they will probably, talking about FIFA right now, they have a monopoly on the football games.
Yeah.
Football is trying, but they're
they're
not
not
really.
competition.
Yeah, exactly. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Mhm.
So basically, every young kid that loves football and is gonna pick up a game is probably out there buying FIFA.
Yeah, but
not much competition as well.
Yeah, not yet,
Yeah,
but
not
some,
yet.
some titles are coming up,
Yeah,
like
that's
goals
true.
and
What is Football Manager? I think it was that one. You
that's
aren't
popular as
really.
well.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. You're more like a coach, or
Yeah.
you're not really playing. It's like, okay, you really have to look at statistics.
Analyze.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
analyzing
exactly.
your players, the enemy players. Okay, how am I gonna play this? And you're more like using tactics than actually using skills in game. You know,
Yeah,
it's more.
not mechanical skills,
Yeah,
but
it's
like,
more
like using your budget wisely and,
Yeah.
and maybe trying to build something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's fun as well. I haven't played it for ages anymore. That's
Yeah.
that's more due to a lack of time than the game not being fun, because I hear a lot of people still playing it and
yeah.
loving it.
few friends of mine that do like challenges with like the team of The Hague, you know, other The Hague in the game. Like, oh, we have like a budget that's a fraction of what we can get from like Feyenoord or Ajax, PSV, you know. And then they're like, okay, but with those teams it's pretty easy. Let's try it with ADO or with
nice
something,
challenge.
you know. Yeah, and that's what they're trying to do. Or with I knew one friend of mine was like The Hague, other The Hague. The other one was Willem II.
Oh, nice.
So and they tried like in the
Niet de beste, maar wel de gekste. En we zijn voor niemand bang. This is what I hear every week in the stadium.
But I don't know how it works. If you can actually play multiplayer in that, with like multiple people in one world, one save, you know, one environment.
Interesting.
But it sounds like when they're playing that they are, because they're always asking each other, oh yeah, and what did you do with that money? And did you use all the money? Did you buy all the players you can get? You know,
compare squads.
Yeah, they're comparing and helping each other out, you know, because four eyes are better than two, you know, two brains better than one, and so on.
For sure, yeah.
But if you look back at FIFA, it's more like, okay, he has 5-star skill moves. He is better. I want him. Or this is Messi. I need him to win in online, for example.
It's still about combination, though.
Yeah, it's
how do
it's
you
about
play
chemistry.
the players?
Yeah, it's about chemistry. But you can already see, okay, if number is high, it's good. That's all FIFA. That's all FIFA has to it.
Number high, good.
That's actually how FIFA works. And a friend of mine told me that in the new FIFA, they wanted to change the play mechanics. They wanted to change the flow of the game, but everyone hated it. Like, for example, all the pros hated it because they actually needed skill for it. Or that's how he said how it worked. Because I don't play it, so I can't say anything about it.
Right.
But he's like, they changed the way the game worked, and everyone in the pro scene hated it.
Yeah, it's true.
For example, it's not like
every year there will be a lot of pros that don't like it initially, and then sometimes it gets tweaked, and they like it more and more because of the tweaks, and also because of themselves finding out what's going on and what's different and how to master it. But there's always going to be players who don't like it at the start.
Yeah, that's true. But you have that in every game. For example, they in games with champions such as Overwatch, Valorant, League of Legends, they nerf and buff characters because they want to balance out the game. Yeah. But then you have the best player in the world. He's like, oh, I main this character and now it's nerfed. Why is it nerfed? Just because I am the best player in the world? Yeah. I don't like this, you know? Or for example, the top top 3 in CS was uppers. The top in the world were all uppers. So that they were like, what can we do so we cannot ruin the gun? But we should make it less overpowered. Right. So now they dropped the bullets from 10 to 5.
Make sure that it's possible for someone with another gun to get an MVP medal at a big tournament as well.
Yeah, because they have to make it a little bit harder to.
And that's what the football games are trying to create. That it's not just the Mbappes that will get you. Because like a player like Toni Kroos is phenomenal, and you couldn't miss him, or a Casemiro in your squad when you're Real Madrid, which appeared this week because they drew like 1-1 against a lower tier team because, of course, Casemiro left to United and Tchouaméni was either injured or suspended. And then suddenly they don't have anyone sitting in before that defense who is defensively solid but also good at passing. And then they have a problem. But in game, you wouldn't mind not having them in your midfield. You could have like 3 Frankie de Jongs or 3 Messis in midfield, and it would be perfect. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that perfect world. You can't have 10 Messis or 10.
No cloning.
Yeah, exactly. But like you would be able to put Modric in midfield and then Kevin De Bruyne and another offensive midfielder, and it would work very, very well for you. But
and I think that's the most skilled part of FIFA. If you're creating your own team, you know, what's it called, Ultimate Team?
Yeah, FIFA Ultimate Team.
Yeah. If you play that and you have like your own team, you're getting together, things can go out of hand because players that go up, and the worst player in the game can become the best player in the game. And that's really insane how that works. For example,
it's
you have
true.
like
If they perform in the real world, they'll get upgraded a lot.
yeah,
The World Cup cards, the special cards, which is cool because then you suddenly see Cody Gakpo getting a huge upgrade, and then it'll be used in FUT teams suddenly.
Yeah,
because he's tall and quick, and also has a good passing range.
The Dutch guy, how he
Wout
scored.
Weghorst.
Yeah, Wout Weghorst.
Oh man, that's
He should have gotten a lot of stat boosts.
Yeah, he should be 99. No, I'm not objective when it comes to Wout Weghorst because I think I've told you at the lecture, I don't know if you remember that the way I started out as a football commentator was not at Willem II, but at AZ Alkmaar.
Oh, yeah.
Which is where he played back at the time. So I was doing matches for the Blindentribune there. And after some matches, he would usually come to me and the other commentator to have a little bit of chat. So he was a very friendly guy. He was even taller than me, 197, I think he is. And I'm 190.
I feel small.
I was looking up to him. But you wouldn't expect how nice he is because when he's on the field, he's an absolute rampage.
That's true.
Like in the match against Argentina, he not only scored 2 goals, but you can see his lips moving sometimes, and we don't know what's being said. But I'm pretty sure from the reaction of the Argentina players after the match that he just burned all of the ships behind him and then just decided, like, I don't care if I ever get on an international top team with an Argentine player in there anymore. I just want to win this World Cup. And I know that's how he is because even when it was AZ RKC Waalwijk 7th play day of the season, and it wasn't like the biggest match in the world, he would go out there and like wreak havoc and run so fast that the grass was exploding behind him and just muscling his way through everybody. And then he went to Wolfsburg after AZ, and then somehow he upped his game some more. Everybody expected him to fail, to bomb out. Every football journalist said, like, he doesn't have technique, he doesn't have exceptional speed, is he gonna make it? And then, some way he scored 17 goals that first season because of sheer power of will. Like Dirk Kuyt back in the day, we were just working hard, but Dirk Kuyt was always a gentleman, and I know that Wout, when he's on the field, he does everything to win. So then when you're in a World Cup quarterfinal against Argentina, you probably try and up that some way. So maybe he did a bit of trash talk. I don't know. Because after the match, he wanted the shirt of Messi. He was like, I'm the MVP. I should be able to get a shirt maybe. Then he was on his way to Messi, and then Argentine players blocked him from getting there, and Messi was talking trash to him. So he said, "Que miras, bobo?" So like, what are you looking at, dumb guy?
I missed that.
Yeah. But Wout, he's the nicest guy for sure. So I love the fact that he's at Manchester United now.
Yeah, I just love the way how he got like us back in the game.
Back in the game,
in the second half.
Yeah. It's a game. Usually when a game is lost at a World Cup by Holland, I don't look back at it too fondly, but now I'm looking back at it fondly because it was an absolute roller coaster.
Yeah.
We had some screams of positivity. We had some good moments forcing that overtime, and then it was very thrilling, and it wasn't good for my heart probably, but still
Same here.
yeah. But I love the way that match went. So
yeah,
even though as a coach, I would have probably in overtime I would have said something to my players, because I felt like after scoring that 2-2, there was if you kept going the way you were going, you might have just won it 3-2 or 4-2. But for some reason, they had so much respect for Argentina that they were afraid, and they were like, let's defend again and see if we can keep it at a draw and make it to penalties.
But I really think that's the biggest mistake they made in the whole match.
Yeah.
Trying to defend against them.
Yeah, exactly.
For penalties.
Yeah.
I mean, we already saw earlier in the match when Messi got to shoot a penalty, he just made it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's no surprise. So you already know they have a 1-0 start with penalties.
Yeah.
And then when the captain, because we all know Van Dijk is the heart of the team. If he is like, we can do this, if he shows we can do this, the whole team just works better together.
True, yeah.
But when he missed that goal, missed the
keeper was great.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It would have struck the net, and it wasn't even that bad a penalty when it comes to aim. It wasn't exactly at the post, but it was quite towards it, and it wasn't struck softly as well. It was just a phenomenal save by Martinez.
Yeah. So when he missed when his ball got caught.
Yeah, of course.
The motivation of the
then the
team-
mental game on both sides, it shifts in the balance.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely that's where you feel like it's slipping away. You might get back in it with Andries Nopper doing something phenomenal. Obviously, you can't expect a keeper to. Yeah, you do your homework and they shoot this way the one time, or maybe even 9 out of 10 times, but then they shoot the other way. It's hard to predict because it's always the double psychic game.
I'm very out of touch with football. I know next to nothing about football. I was talking with friends about football, and they mentioned someone, and I was like, "Wait, is that a singer?"
You don't know Wayne Gretzky?
my football knowledge is not very great.
I mean, I don't want to look like or do like I know a lot about football. It's like I just always watch the World Cup, because that's that one time every 4 years or 2 years. Sometimes they watch European as well.
When
But
the pressure is so insanely high.
Yeah,
because
but
it's
you
once
already
every 4 years.
yeah, because it's like you see all the best, between quotes, you see all the best players of every country. And that's what I find very cool, because all the Dutch teams, okay, they don't have full Dutch team, because they import players from Spain, from Germany, from everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I find very cool about, for example, Japan. Japan is not a very big football country.
It's true, yeah.
Korea
but
did
they,
amazing.
Managed an
Japan and
upset.
Korea did really good in this World Cup.
And they cleaned up the stadium after themselves, which is unique to see.
yeah.
That was
I
amazing.
did know about that.
Yeah. And the
Yeah, and
lovely
then-
thing about the World Cup is that it's a bit of chaos. So nowadays football is so tactical, and it's a lot of banking on defense, pressuring high up the field, going in a counter. If you want to see the best football being played tactically, you're watching Champions League matches, because that's the best teams against the best teams. And then if you're watching the World Cup, it's basically sometimes where a star player is surrounded by lesser players, but sometimes that, like in Belgium, Kevin De Bruyne couldn't do anything because he had a dire team around him. But sometimes you have that one star player who's in a squad of stars, and it doesn't work as well because there's too many stars, or for some reason, or maybe there's too many stars who are used to playing in one position, so he doesn't get his favorite position.
Yeah.
But then suddenly in his national team, like Gareth Bale a few years ago in Wales, suddenly he was Superman. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool to suddenly see. And then a small country making their way into a semi-finals because of that one star player, and like 10 guys working hard for him. That's something I love to see. And of course, like you said, the extra pressure, because Champions League is every year. A World Cup is once every 4 years, which is insane.
And for a country as we are, the Netherlands, we are very big in football, as in almost everyone that had done it in their youth.
Yeah.
But still, we haven't won. We have
World
won.
Cup, yeah.
What was it? The
The European
in-
Championship, yeah,
was it
1988.
88, yeah.
exactly.
It was the only one time that we
Yeah.
actually won it.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it's gonna happen,
Yeah.
actually
And
want
the
to
World
see
Cup
it.
has yet to happen. Yeah. So we've reached 3 finals, 2010,
Yeah,
when we didn't deserve to win, obviously, because
Yeah.
Spain was just simply better.
4 years later, they weren't.
Yeah, but 1974 and 1978, from what I've read about it and seen about it, in 74, I think it was Germany winning in the end. And then in 78, it was Argentina. And in 78, the tournament was played in Argentina. And back then, the rules weren't so great as it was now. So it was a bit corrupt.
Oh.
So basically,
Just a bit.
basically they put the Dutch players in a hotel so far from the stadiums where they had to play, and then they let them get picked up by a bus, and they would send them through the busiest places with even a tour around, not a straight line to the stadium, but tour around over the biggest plazas with all the Argentine players there. So they were like smashing the bus, throwing rocks, throwing stuff. So obviously mentally you're not going into that game your best. Plus back then Johan Cruyff was the best player in the world, without a shadow in anyone's mind. But in the 74 championship he did play. In the 78 championship, when he was at the peak of his powers and by far the best Dutch player, his family got abducted and threatened. And that's why he decided not to play the tournament.
So
Because- yeah, so we might have deserved to win that 78 final, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But even without him, they made the final and made it close.
That is a big difference I see between like football and like esports. Is that generally in esports everyone is more respectful towards each other than in football.
Yeah.
Like I've never heard of esports hooligans, for example.
Yeah.
But football hooligans are very
well.
real.
Sometimes there are rows, but I think it's all down to what's at stake. And in esports, prizes are a bit less absurd.
Right.
And also there's 4, 5, 6 big Counter-Strike events. Just Counter-Strike, there's 6 events a year where you can make yourself buy a house suddenly. Able to buy a house if you win it.
Yeah.
And in football, like we said, that World Cup once every 4 years makes people do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like they want to put themselves in the history books, and it's not possible unless you win that World Cup.
Yeah, but
So
even
some
the
people-
viewers as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Just a
something
bit
I don't
political.
understand. If you're supporting a squad or a country, what's the point in going out and having
Throwing
a row
walks
with
and
the other?
stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That I don't understand. But
I mean, in the Rio, the crowd was a bit
Yeah,
disrespectful.
I wanted to say,
But it's not as severe as like trying to attack people and breaking stuff, right?
a lot of booing. That was
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
they-
it was the only thing.
Okay, but
that they
Simple
did.
kind of pushed it
Yeah,
as well,
okay.
right?
I think
He
there's
really
a lot of people that get inebriated and maybe even substances other than alcohol.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
That
Yeah.
sort of stuff makes them do crazy stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
But- But in the majors like of Csgo, you have like alcohol served as well.
oh yeah, it's true.
So, but people that watch esports or Counter Strike, for example, 'cause
Yeah.
it's the only tournament I've ever been to. But so when you go to a football match, everyone is just jogging the
Yeah.
beer,
Yeah,
you know.
it's true.
And with esports, you're so focused. I mean, I'm very focused. I'm just forgetting that I have like a drink next to me or
Yeah.
something to eat.
I think in esports it's also there's multiple teams there, not just 2 teams, and it's hard to see who is supporting which team unless they're cheering, and it's not region based. You can be a fan of Simple, who is a Ukrainian player.
Right.
You can also be a fan of Neo, who is a Polish former player.
Mhm.
You can be a fan of Nico from Serbia.
Yeah.
You can be a fan of a team from France because they're the best team in the world, or Australia is from Denmark, if that's your cup of tea. And in football or traditional sports in general, it's usually region based. So you're from a certain region, and it's obvious there's just 2 teams there going head to head, and it's obvious who is which because you're wearing the shirt of your favorite team. You're wearing yellow, and the other guys are wearing blue. So obviously this guy's a Manchester City fan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
it's easy to huddle together, and maybe I'm still not sure why that translates into violence sometimes, but
Yeah, I don't know either. But it's,
think
it's
it's-
weird.
I think it's harder to feel like doing something like that when you're in a situation where there's multiple different teams there, because there will be more social security, more social control. Because if this one guy is starting a fight with the other guy because he's for a different team, there's still 5 other different teams there to say like, hey, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
it's 2 groups. It's 2 big groups. And if one starts to cuss them out, then they start throwing
Yeah.
punches.
that's-
The other
yeah,
one
that-
thinks like, hey,
Yeah.
why are you doing that? And then,
Yeah, exactly. And when you're in an esports arena, they're all they're not all stuck together with their own group. They're just in between. So you're not sure who you're throwing beer at. You might be throwing beer at your own team supporters. So-
Yeah.
And that's the thing I was pretty anxious about when I heard about Rio, because there is one. There was
Yeah,
one
'cause-
real.
Because of Furia.
Yeah, Furia. It was the only real big team in the country, and CS just
Resilience.
exploded in the last few years there.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of booing, but from who and to who?
Yeah.
And then Simple was just the antagonist, would like, come here.
But
boo
even
me.
then, Heroic, they were very
Yeah.
respectful towards Heroic, for example, which
Yeah,
is just Danish people. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I don't know how the audience there works, because okay, they know Furia is on the other side of the bracket, maybe because of that, or maybe
I don't
because
know, it's-
they thought Heroic would be a nice final, or Cadian played with
Casper Muller, yeah.
Yeah, he played with a few Brazilian players, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
in the past. True. So maybe because of the connections that he had in the past.
Good point. Yeah.
I don't remember Simple playing with with people from Brazil or Electronic or someone who was playing in that major.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because of that. He played with Brazilian guys. He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
A bit of national thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
Well, anyone still have questions or ideas?
You're done?
I'm
Well, in which case, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to my co-hosts, of course.
Always.
As always. I hope everyone enjoyed.
I enjoyed myself.
Very much.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
And it's been a great podcast again. I see everyone later again.
Cool.
Yes.
Bye-bye,
Until next time.
guys.
Take care.
Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the ROCM podcast. You can follow us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter with the handle @ROCM_esports.